The Big Fella Weight Loss Podcast is the place for real, open and honest talk about weight loss and GLP-1 medication. Subscribe now and don't miss an episode. Welcome everybody to the Big Fella Weight Loss Podcast. My name is Barry and I am a big fella. And I'm on a weight loss journey with the help of Mounjaro. Some of you may know me as Big Fella on TikTok. If not, and you are on TikTok, then do give a follow over there. You'll find me at BigFella_Baz. That's at Big FELLA_BAZ over on TikTok. So here we are, the very first episode of the Big Fella Weight Loss Podcast. So as it is the first episode, there's every chance I could be sitting here talking to absolutely nobody. So the first order of business, if you do listen to this, let me know. Either drop me a comment if you're on Spotify. A 5-star review would be even better wherever you listen to your podcasts. Or if you follow me on any social media, then do drop me a comment just to let me know you've listened. And let me know if you're going to be listening out again in future. So, what is it all about, I hear you ask? Well, my name is Barry, as I've said, and I am on a weight loss journey. I've lost over 6 stone already this year. But it's not my first weight loss journey. No. There have been many weight loss journeys over the years. This one is a little bit different, as I'm joined on this journey with a little bit of medical assistance from Mounjaro. And this podcast is a place for me to talk openly about my weight loss journey, including previous weight loss journeys that I've had in the past. This will be a space where I can talk honestly and openly about all of that. And hopefully, people on a similar weight loss journey will find it interesting. Just to be clear, I'm not a medical professional. I have no professional advice to give here, just my experience so far in my weight loss journey on this occasion. So, as I say, I've lost over 6 stone this year, 6.5 stone now since February. An incredible amount of progress for me. So really happy with how it's going. But still a long way to go. I'll talk more about the actual numbers and where I need to get to and where I started further down the line. But for now, a little bit about who I am. My name is Barry, as I've mentioned. I am in my 40s, 44-year-old, born and bred in the northeast of England in Newcastle upon Tyne. I live with my long-term partner now in Nottinghamshire, and I have 2 young teenage daughters. I've spent all of my adult life battling weight loss issues. Unsuccessfully, I would say. Short-term success, I have had plenty of short-term success. I've lost good amounts of weight on many occasions, on many different diets, but ultimately I've always piled it back on and usually piled on more. I've got this ridiculous ability to get in the zone, get really focused, get some discipline in place, lose 6 stone in 6 months as I have done this year. But then I also have this ability to spiral out of control and pile on 7 stone in the next 6 months. This has gone on for years and years, and it's culminated in me reaching a peak in the last 12 months, and something had to change. And hopefully change is here now. So diets, I've done them all. I've done the caveman, keto, slimming world. I've done shakes, calorie counting. I've done it with exercise, boot camps, those sort of things. I've lost weight in all sorts of different ways. I've always gained it back. And now I wouldn't sit here and blame any of those diets. There are a lot of people who will sit out there and say that diet will never work. You'll always put the weight back on. Me putting the weight back on, I put that entirely on my own shoulders. Ultimately, my own terrible relationship with food is the reason why I end up going back to square one on most of these diets. For me this time, as I say, I'm here on a medically assisted journey with the use of GLP-1 medication, which so far has been an absolute game changer for me. GLP-1, for anyone who doesn't know, includes Mounjaro, but also Wegovy or Ozempic. Weight loss jabs, as they are more commonly known. Mounjaro, as I say, is the drug of choice for me currently. Whether that will be the case going forward, who knows? There's lots going on at the moment with price changes and things like that. Now, if someone had suggested to me 12 months ago that I should try Mounjaro, I'd have brushed it off straight away. I'll go into it a little bit more later on about what changed my mind on that. But first, what have been the effects of my weight issues throughout my adult life? For me, it's the obvious things that many people will understand. Lack of confidence, the low self-esteem, terrible fitness levels, becoming less mobile, being more uncomfortable doing everyday tasks. And as I get into my mid-40s, I realise something has to change because I'm getting closer to that point where the consequences of inaction are unthinkable. we all know what the risks are. We all know they increase as you get older. And we all know as you carry this sort of weight around for longer, those risks go up and up and up. So I need to change. My general health isn't too bad in terms of I have high blood pressure. I take medication for that. But I haven't got issues with diabetes. My blood sugar levels have always been fine. My cholesterol levels are always fine. GP is always massively surprised when I come back with good cholesterol levels despite being huge. But there we go. So generally, sort of, not having those diabetes issues and things like that is a bonus. But I realise I am massively at risk because of the weight I'm carrying around. So Mounjaro is where I've gone. And why Mounjaro? Well, I'm sure most of you have heard Mounjaro by now, and weight loss jabs in general, or fat jabs as they're less affectionately referred to by the media. And the media is probably where I first heard about it, as the noise around them grew louder and louder in the last year or so. And initially, it never crossed my mind that this would be a route I would go down. For a few reasons, really. Firstly, I didn't know a lot about them. Also, I don't like needles. I don't have a massive fear of needles, but enough for me to think voluntarily having a needle every week for any reason wasn't really appealing to me. But I think the main reason I didn't think it was for me was because in my mind, and my mind is something I'll come back to a lot because it's very important in this whole situation. In my mind, I didn't need an injection to help me lose weight. I told myself, I know how to lose weight. I've done it before. I know what I should be doing. I know what I should be eating. I just don't do it consistently. Now, I feel like I understand nutrition well enough. I think I've got a good understanding of it. I'm not the type of person that's going to sit here telling anybody that I'm doing everything right and I can't lose weight, or I don't understand why I'm putting on weight. I know the reasons why. So initially, my thoughts were, I don't need a drug to help with this. I just need to get things right for myself, and I can do this on my own. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the turning point was exactly, but I found myself in February of this year reading up more on Mounjaro late one evening, probably after watching a documentary or a news report on TV, and I started to do some actual research and learning more about the drug and what it does, and more about other people's experiences. And there was one thing that stood out for me, and that was this phrase of food noise. Over and over again, I heard how this drug could trigger your brain to think less about food. And that was the changing point for me. That resonated with me because all of my life, I've been obsessed with food. I love food. But it's not just a love of food that's the problem. It's the fact I think about it all day long. I can have a meal, I can enjoy my meal, I can be full, but my mind is automatically moving on to what's next. What can I snack on? What's in the fridge? What's going to be for dinner this evening? I'm always thinking about food. So the idea that my brain might no longer work like that appealed to me. That was it. I'd found a new way forward, and I was willing to try it out just for a few weeks to see if this could really help me. Here we are. I'm 6 months down the road, so trying it out for a few weeks was the starting point. But needless to say, it's all been a success so far, which is why I am still here. So the challenge then was for me to find the right provider, the right price, the right service, the right support, because there are so many options out there. And we'll cover that in another episode. But for now, that gives you a little bit of a taster of how I ended up on Mounjaro and on this particular journey where I'm at the moment. So why a podcast? You might be thinking, well, I listen to a lot of podcasts anyway. I actually present another podcast in a completely different space on a completely different subject. But I have been podcasting for about the last 3 years. So I've got a bit of knowledge and experience in that area. But I listen to a lot of podcasts as well. And I couldn't find a lot out there in terms of podcasts that fitted the scenario or the sort of stuff I wanted to listen to around weight loss. So I felt there was a space or an opening there for somebody to sort of try and fill that gap. By all means, if you've got some good podcasts you listen to that I haven't found, feel free to make those recommendations and I'll be happy to try them out. So the other reason is when I started this journey, I got a lot of inspiration from others on social media in particular. First on Reddit, and the forums on there, and then onto TikTok. And I found other people's stories to be motivational. I found it to be inspiring. I loved looking at people who had started their journeys well before me and had lost huge amounts of weight, because that sort of gives you that visualization of what you could achieve. You've seen someone who's actually gone down the path and made massive, massive differences. So that was inspirational for me. And then I started to use TikTok a little bit more. I started sharing more of my journey, sharing my progress, sharing my food, sharing my thoughts on how things were going. And this was as much about accountability for myself than anything else, because I felt going on and sort of reporting my progress all of the time, it sort of motivated me to want to do well, to be able to go back next week and say, I've lost weight again. That might sound silly because that accountability is coming from people I've never met. But it works for me. Accountability is a big thing on a diet. And that's something that has worked for me so far. And I think the social media has been a great place, as I say, for motivation and support. There are so many good people out there providing support, giving good advice. There's also lots of bad advice out there, don't get me wrong. But with TikTok in particular, it's become more difficult to share things on there because they've become stricter on what you can talk about around these sort of things. And it's also the fact that the shorter form content is great, but it does have its limitations. And a podcast, I think, just gives me a bit more flexibility to talk in depth about things. And hopefully people will get something out of it. I'd also like to try and involve others further down the line. It would be great to get some guests on talking about their journeys or experiences, whether they be good or bad. So if you are listening and you have a story to tell about your weight loss journey, and it doesn't necessarily need to be involving weight loss jabs, but get in touch. All my social links are in my profile. So what to expect from the podcast? I plan to do once a week. It'll be a short 20 to 30 minute thing. So you can listen to it, pick it up on your way home from work, listen to it on your way to work, in the bus or in the car. Listen to it going to bed. If it helps you go to sleep, that's all good as well. But yeah, I think going forward, there'll be a weekly update on my progress, how my week's gone, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever's gone on that week will be put there, honest reflections from me on my journey. And I'll share the sort of things I've been eating, what I've enjoyed eating that week, what's worked well for me, and hopefully we'll have plenty in there for people who are already on a weight loss journey, whilst also being a good space for anyone who's just starting out or considering a similar journey. And as I said, it doesn't need to be weight loss jabs. Weight issues affect tons of us. However you intend to fight your own weight loss battle, I hope you can find something in this podcast going forward. Initially, it'll go out as a podcast in all the usual podcast places. But eventually, if there's enough interest, it'll go out on YouTube also, where we can get people involved in the chat live as the show is streamed. So I've got some ideas as to how I see it panning out. YouTube doesn't really add anything to it until we've got a bit of a following and people are listening to it. And then, as I say, that live chat facility really sort of works well. So that's a development for the future. As I say, I've done podcasting before, so a good idea of where I want it to go. But it only works if people are listening. And it takes time to grow these things. So any help you can provide in sharing social media posts, just spreading the word generally, that would all be helpful. So that gets you a little taster of what this podcast is going to be about. And this one is a little bit shorter because it is just that introduction to me and what this podcast will be about. Next week, I will be back with some reflections on how my first few weeks on Mounjaro went. So from making my first order, how long I waited for the pen and how long I sort of held off before taking it, and the anxiety around taking needles and things like that. So yeah, next week we'll cover the first few weeks and what went well and what went not so well, and sort of lessons learned, I suppose. So yeah, hopefully if you've made it this far, then thank you very much. You've done well. That for now, that is the first episode done, just a little taster, as I say. And I'm really thankful to anyone who has made it this far. If you've just clicked on and give it a listen and give it a go, it might not be for you. That's absolutely fine. If it is and you like it, let me know. As I say, it does help to know that people are out there listening. As we go forward, I'll be looking to put out one episode a week, I said, of around 20 to 30 minutes, covering different topics each week. Open to topic suggestions from others, whatever people are wanting to hear about, then I'm happy to talk. And as I say, it is purely my experience. It's not me telling anybody what they should do or, recommending any particular things. Purely my journey, my experience. And if people take away from that anything, then that's the bonus for me. As I say, next week we'll be back talking around my first few weeks on the journey. So for now, that is it. Don't forget to drop a comment or a review. Follow me on TikTok at BigFellaBaz. At BigFella_Baz. That's at BigFella FELLA_BAZ. But for now, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully I will catch up with you again next week. Cheers.